Wonder Boy is a series that no one really remembers anymore. It was one of Sega's early attempts at making a mascot for themselves, but as the years went on, the series would go through a variety of changes and would come to an end in 1994. However, in recent years there have been quite a few attempts to revitalize interest in these games, and last year we finally got a new entry in the form of Game Atelier's Monster Boy and the Cursed Kingdom. But right before that, France-based developer Lizardcube gave us a complete remake of 1989's Wonder Boy 3: The Dragon's Trap. While most of you probably haven't heard of this game, I'm sure you've heard of some of the games inspired by it, including Castlevania Symphony of the Night and Shantae. Now, I'll be honest, I don't think all of the Wonder Boy games are hits. The first game is fun, but it's just a basic arcade platformer, and the second game is way too cryptic for its own good. But does the saying, "third time's the charm," apply to this series? Well, evidently Lizardcube thought so, as they've brought forth a lot of effort into remaking this game. The graphics are all completely redrawn in a beautiful style, in addition to all of the music being completely redone. But if for whatever reason you're not a fan of the new presentation, then you can actually switch to the original Master System graphics and soundtrack on the fly. The game begins with you going through the final castle of the previous game with a full set of armor and health to face the Mecha Dragon. However, unlike the last game, once you defeat the dragon, you are cursed to take the form of a lizard and are stripped of all your power, and after escaping the crumbling castle, your journey begins to explore Monsterland and regain your human form. There's a great amount of gameplay variety here, as each of the different forms have unique quirks to them. The lizard can breathe fire, the mouse can stick to certain surfaces, the piranha can swim underwater, the lion has a stronger sword attack, and the hawk can take to the sky! You can't switch between forms on the fly, so once you get a new form, you're stuck with it until you find a room with a transformation pad. I don't mind this though, as it keeps the game feeling fresh the farther you get into it. A problem I do have with the gameplay though is that movement feels a little slippery, as your character holds on to a lot of momentum, which can sometimes make dodging and jumping around enemies a little harder than it should be. I wouldn't say it's bad enough to ruin the game or anything, as it wasn't hard for me to adjust to it after a little bit, but it's still a little hurdle to get over. The main reason I didn't like Wonder Boy in Monsterland was because there were so many secrets, and your success in that game depends on your ability to discover them. However, exploration was actively discouraged by a timer that would quickly go down to deplete your health. Thankfully, Dragon's Trap removes that obnoxious mechanic, and you can have as much time as you need to explore the environments, find secrets, and grind money for equipment. The overall progression is also much less cryptic, and I don't recall having to refer to a guide to get past any parts of the game. There are some things that might make you scratch your head on your initial playthrough, but generally you should always have a good idea on where to go and what to do next. The remake adds in an all-new hard mode to challenge veteran players, and when you play on this mode, the Hourglass from Monsterland makes its unceremonious return, which obviously I'm not too fond of. I would have preferred something more traditional for a higher difficulty mode, like more aggressive enemies or redesigned dungeons. Hardcore Wonder Boy fans will probably get a kick out of it, but as for me, I'll just stick with the normal difficulty. The game is inherently really good, but I just have to applaud Lizardcube for everything they thought of when remaking this game. The original Master System version didn't have a save battery, which meant that you would have to write down passwords if you wanted to turn the game off and play later. Of course, Lizardcube added in a save system, but amazingly they also kept in the old password system. I don't know why you would choose to play it that way, but the fact they left it in says a lot. You also have quite a few options with the music of the game. You can choose between the new and old soundtrack like I said earlier, but there's also an option for the FM audio that was previously only accessible by modifying your Master System console. You can totally mix and match the aesthetics to your liking. New graphics with old graphics with new music with the old sound effects. You're bound to find some option that you'll be happy with. As for the new music itself, I do like it, but it feels a bit softer than the original 8-bit music, which I think makes some parts of the game lose a little bit of an impact, like the Adventure Zone theme, for example. On the other hand, I feel it greatly enhances the atmosphere of places like the Monster Town. The new soundtrack also adds in some extra spice here and there, like giving each of the dragons a slightly different boss theme. Either way you go, this game has some great tracks which combine to make a soundtrack that seems to be strangely underappreciated for whatever reason. If I had anything to really nitpick about in terms of the contents of this remake, I would have found it cool if Lizard Cube could have included Hudson Soft's TurboGrafx 16 port of this game, which was called Dragon's Curse. I don't mean they should have redrawn all the graphics for this version or anything, but I think just throwing the ROM on there as an extra would have been neat. Not at all necessary since it's literally the exact same game, and I'm sure there would be some kind of licensing issue with Konami, but it still would have been neat. Overall though, I totally recommend adding this game to your collection. The original Master System version is pretty rare and relatively expensive, but you're probably more interested in this remake anyways, which thankfully is easy to find as it's available digitally on all modern platforms, and has physical copies available on the PS4 and Nintendo Switch. There's actually 3 different physical releases of the PS4 version. There's the Asia English version, the Limited Run Games release, and the Nicalis release, which is the one that I own and would recommend if you come across it. It comes with a cute little keychain, a soundtrack sampler CD, and a full color instruction manual. Whichever way you choose to play it though, Wonder Boy 3 is truly a wonderful game, and if you consider yourself a fan of platformers and Metroidvania style games, then I would say that you definitely owe it to yourself to play this game.